Hello, everybody. New year, new me, book tag, because Dustin Neely um, tagged me. Fun little book tag things. So, as people notoriously, maybe not notoriously, as I was trying to say, I don't typically do these unless prompted, um, because there's a lot of these that go around, and I don't want to like shove myself into something where I don't belong. So, I wait for people to either do it to me or not. Um, But the funny thing and the more unique thing about me is, if you don't know, for instance, if you're watching this, this is a very current day me. This is 2026, January, Alex. But typically, because life can often get stressful and hard, and I try to account for such things. So I try my best to be ahead of time. So, for instance, like when I do my expanded universe publication order live streams with my friends, those are also, of course, current day me. Whenever those are streaming, that is me today. But when you're watching a video by me, typically it's in the past. Like stuff that's coming out in February and March and April, a lot of that stuff came out in 2025 for me. Because I record massively ahead of time, or I try to. And if I ever catch up, I won't freak out about it. I will just release as I finish. But I try to account for the fact that I'm a slower reader and for the fact that life gets in the way to consistently be ahead of the game. So, for instance, like with my reviews um, into the Sunday slot, because I have a Sunday Thursday slot, my Sunday slot is into September of 2026 in January. In my Thursday slot, I'm in June right now. But regardless, massively ahead of where I am now. So with that, a lot of the things that are asked of me this tag, I'm already reading a bunch of stuff. But there are some stuff I haven't read yet for that I have the whole rest of the year to read that might bleed into 2027, but that I'm interested in getting into. So these are some of the questions that were brought for the tag. So number one was fears. What is one book from your 2026 reading goals that scares you? And that would be The Wheel of Time, a recurring theme here. I'm still, as of this moment in time, on book 5, and I've been unable to make my way through it. I just keep finding an excuse to read anything else, and it seems like Dustin's also having a similar problem as me, but he's making his way better than I am, out of sheer will, and I just don't have that strength in me. Um, so, if I'm really into something, it's really easy for me. Like, Malazan is way more complicated and longer than all of Wheel of Time, but I read that so quickly by comparison because I was invested. And that's one of the big issues for me. So, trying to finish that. And I don't mean to be a jerk. I don't mean to be a bully. I know many people adore and love that series, and I don't mean to take anything away from that. But there's two factors that go into that. One, I paid for all of them, so in my mind, I'm obligated to finish it, otherwise I wasted my money, and that pisses me off to no end. And two, I don't feel it's fair to have an opinion on a series that I haven't finished. I know a lot of people DNF books, and there's nothing wrong with it. Your own mental health is more important. But for me, as somebody who comes on the internet, for whatever it's worth, and gives his opinion on books, I think it's only fair to read all of them. So at least if I disliked it all the way through, I can properly explain myself why, and I can have a valid opinion. If you only read up to book 5 of Wheel of Time, you can say, well, ups to book 1 to 5 are just terrible. I don't like them. But you can't say anything to the rest because you haven't read them. And so I try to always be fair with that. And maybe I'll appreciate it by the end. Maybe I'll get this epiphany when I finished it and be like, oh my gosh, I was so wrong the whole way through. I doubt it. But that's the thing that I'm fearing the most for the rest of this year. Patience. What is the one book on your 2026 reading goals you want to start immediately? One thing that is it would be considered a contemporary work of literature as compared to a classic or fantasy or sci-fi or whatever. Um, Many people pick up this book and drop it. Many people claim to have read this book and probably haven't. But it's a big chunker, and it's one that, from the premise, has really interested me. And um, I don't know if anybody's guessed it by now, but it is a famous work of literature that kind of predicted today. Maybe not exactly, but to a large extent. And that would be the 1990s novel, not 1990s specifically, just in the 90s. I don't remember what year it came out, but Infinite Jest, by Daniel Wallace. And that has been a big to-do list for me. And I'm hoping to have done that before 2026 ends. Um, so, but I also am hoping to do it, I'm reading things at a time, so I'm hoping to put that into the 2026 slot. I don't want to read that in 2026 and have that go into the 2027 slot. I want that to come out this year at some point. So that's one I want to immediately pick up, but I'm holding off because I have other things I need to read first. What book last year pushed you to reflect and or grow as a reader? That would be Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. Now, I exclusively for 2 years, basically, I was a big reader in elementary school and middle school. I think by 5th grade, I had read the entirety of the Harry Potter books. And by middle school, I had read Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Captain Underpants, the Percy Jackson books because they reminded me of Harry Potter, but Greek stuff. And I loved Greek mythology in middle school, so I read those and a lot of those spin-offs that dealt with Percy Jackson and everything. And those are the big ones. I did read Twilight. I did read them all. I can't remember my thoughts of them at the time, but I did read them, and I did watch them. So think about that of me what you will. And somewhere around high school though, I just wasn't into it. I just stopped reading. It wasn't until COVID that I finally got back into reading, because I was a bit in denial when I watched The Force Awakens. When I saw The Force Awakens, that was the first Star Wars film I ever got to see in theaters. I'd only ever watched the first 6, on DVD and VHS, right? Or the Ewoks Caravan of Courage and the Battle for Endor. I watched those growing up too. Or the holiday special. But I never got to see one in theaters. I mean, Phantom Menace came out in 1999, 2 years before I would exist. And then the following 2 came out. I mean, Revenge of the Sith came out when I was 4 years old. So even if I saw it in theaters, I wouldn't remember. But Force Awakens came out. And I was so excited just to see Star Wars in theaters. One thing that annoyed me in the back of my mind, but I kind of ignored, was how they treated Han. To have all that character development to go right back to square one was upsetting. But the straw that broke the camel's back was what they did to Luke Skywalker. And this has been a long discussed internet topic. I'm not going to get into the weeds of this again. It's an over and done discussion, in my opinion. But the fact of the matter is that really broke me. And I was really disappointed, and I barely had the strength to watch Rise of Skywalker. Rogue One is okay. Literally the only thing about Rogue One that's like really good is, and it's not even really good, it's just fun, is the Vader scene. Everything before that it's fine, but it's not fantastic like people claim it is. The only reason people say that now is because of Andor, which I still haven't watched. But anyway, the point being, I had heard about this thing called the Expanded Universe. And through that, I found Matt Wilkins. Well, actually, RK Outpost, I think, on Geeks and Gamers, which I don't really watch anymore, but this is back in the day, made a video about Kylo Ren being a Dollar Tree version of Jason Solo. And I'm like, oh, who's Jason Solo? Never heard of this character. And from there, I learned about the expanded universe. And when I looked up the expanded universe, I found Matt Wilkins, another YouTuber, and he has an entire playlist, 500 episodes plus, of going through the entire Star Wars expanded universe in chronological order as best he knows how. And from there, the rest is history. I started buying and acquiring a whole bunch of books and comics and short stories and yada 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 yada. And I started making my way through because the scary, awful COVID came around and I lost my job, had nothing to do, I had all this free time, so I got back into reading through the Star Wars Expanded Universe and read the vast majority of it. But you do that for enough years and you need other things. So I eventually found BookTube and learned about all these fantasy stuff and started reading that. And from there, we get to R. Scott Bakker's The Prince of Nothing trilogy, which I read. But one thing I heard about before going to his second series, The Aspect Emperor, is that his Aspect Emperor series is heavily influenced by Lord of the Rings and Blood Meridian. So to have a better sort of notion of what was going on in that quadrilogy, I read Blood Meridian. But I loved it so much that it has basically made me be not only a sci-fi, fantasy, space opera nerd, but a contemporary literature, hence me trying to read Infinite Jest, and classic literature. I read, I read Wuthering Heights. I bought Moby Dick, which I hated in school, and would have never bought of my own volition if not for Blood Meridian. So it is thanks to Blood Meridian and Cormac McCarthy's writing and the judge and how he's dancing over their canted pieces that I'm here today, being a vast grower of a reader into every area. I suppose my only thing I've avoided still is nonfiction, but I'm pretty much open. I really like literary fiction. That's where my brain kind of gravitates to. Philosophy as well. That doesn't really help you get a job. But I'm not a science dude. I'm not really a history dude. I do like history to an extent. I played Assassin's Creed growing up. Love those games. And I don't know, as I get older, history, I don't know. I don't mind reading historical fiction. I just don't want to read a bunch of nonfiction stuff. But maybe I'll change as I get older. But that's why my reading has vastly changed, and I feel I've grown as a reader. I read Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway. Like, again, never, ever would I have touched those books before. It is only thanks to Cormac McCarthy and R. Scott Bakker for referencing it as one of his inspirations. So, there we go. Sorry for the overlong thing on that. New Pass. What is one author you plan to try for the first time in 2026? I guess I can say Dostoevsky. I forget, it was maybe in high school I attempted. I don't know. There was a point, and I'll be honest, where I was watching Jordan Peterson, and he would talk about Crime and Punishment a lot. So I picked up Crime and Punishment, and I don't remember if I ever finished it or not. What I did read of it, I remember enjoying. I'm like, oh, this is like a Russian version of, I don't remember the title of the book or the story, but the Edgar Allan Poe short story where the man kills a guy, keeps him in his walls, and the guilt overwhelms him, and he turns himself in. And it felt sort of similar to that. But I definitely want to go back and go through his entire catalog. So I'd say probably Dostoevsky, but also, and I know he's kind of a mainstream name now, but one thing I plan on doing, Brandon Sanderson eventually goes and finishes The Wheel of Time. Before I go and read the last 3 books in The Wheel of Time by Brandon Sanderson, the plan was to go back and read all of his books publication order aligned with The Wheel of Time, so I can get like a hint of what his writing's like before I actually read the finale, and to just kind of get myself into the Cosmere, which everybody talks about, which I'm sure is fun. I'm sure it's no, highbrow thing, but I also just like to have fun sometimes. So Brandon Sanderson's probably one of them, and Dostoevsky, kind of a crazy parallel there. And I did read a short story by Tolstoy, but I do plan at some point in time, maybe not 2026, but reading War and Peace. So um, there's that. Also, Ursula K. Le Guin, Robin Hobb, Jenny Warts, etc., etc. I have a lot of things I want to read and a lot of authors I want to check out. So we'll see what I manage. The fifth question is, what is one book or series you revisit for comfort? And probably the expanding universe, just generally speaking. Um, I love I love the EU. I love it more than I love the Star Wars films. But if I had to choose a particular book, that's a toughie. That's a tough one. Maybe the Revenge of the Sith novelization, just because I think it's really good, or any of the Tales of the Jedi comics. KOTOR as well. I don't know, it's a tough one. But the EU as a whole has always been my comfort. So, yeah. Number 6. What is your favorite debut book or first book in a series you read last year? Another good question. Trying to think. Did I like The Darkness That Came Before more than Gardens of the Moon? Because I know the rest of the series doesn't hold a candle to Malazan if we're going 2 through 10. But the first one, Gardens of the Moon versus The Darkness That Came Before. I might actually give it to R. Scott Baker with The Darkness That Came Before. Really solid start. Also, was it The Last Wish by Andrei Sorkovsky, the Witcher short story collection? That was also pretty good. But I'm kind of cheating. I'm doing multiple answers, so I'll move on. 7. Goals. Do you have a specific reading goal or challenge for the year ahead? Not really. I'm kind of getting through most of what I want to read for this year so far. As I said, I'm already into September for the Sunday slot. Or another thing I started, which you'll see in like May or something, with the First Law series by Joe Abercrombie. I finally started that. But in terms of the big challenge, I guess I can just go back to the earlier question with, I really want to read Infinite Jest and finish it and complete it and have my own thoughts and opinions on that book. So positive or negative. So that is a big goal of mine. Bonus question. Do you have a non-book related goal for 2026 you wish to share? I want to be an actor. I am not very good at anything. I'm very okay at everything, but I've never been great at anything. And I've been taking an acting class since July of 2025. And I know I won't be in anything big within this year, but I do hope to maybe start being in some student films, maybe a commercial. Even though commercials don't get that creative juice flowing, it's just a way to make money. Especially because I'm moving into an apartment this year, which, late to the party. I want to end this, I dropped it. The next question is just tag others anyway. But we're all on our different paths. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate. Oh. You know me, I gotta make the video super long, apparently. I should probably end it soon anyway. Nice little interruption means I should break it soon. I was just gonna say, I'm sure a lot of people can relate. 25, and I don't feel like an adult. You know what I mean? Like, I know I'm older, but especially nowadays, I think, and maybe it's just my parents, but I feel like I've failed to properly become an adult. But what even is an adult, right? Like, when do you really know? But at some point, you're just gonna be like, you're 50, and like, you should probably have your stuff together, right? But at 25, like, I feel like a kid still, and I feel I feel like I seek guidance and like some sort of, like mentor figures, like in my acting class and stuff. And I kind of feel like in my head I'm acting like this sort of like lost puppy, and it's like, bro, you're a man. You can't be acting like a lost puppy. Like you're not a kid anymore. I'm scared to say, but you're not. And so that always gets to me. But I will be living on my own soon. Well, not on my own. I'll have a roommate because I can't afford anything in LA. But it'll be the first time without any like adults. So I'll have to be the adult. But even just like trying to get an apartment, right? You gotta like get the W-2s or proof that you have employment and just all these adult things, adult words. Like I don't know anything. What are you talking about? Um, but the point is that we all have our own trajectory, our own pace, our own story, and there's no inherently wrong or right way. I suppose the self-awareness that I am so flawed and am need of growth is the right step, right? All that to say, I'm not a parent. I don't have kids. I have no other responsibilities other than myself. And so if I'm gonna make a bad decision, now's the time. And I don't think it is a bad decision because we have this one life and we don't, we only have the one. No matter if there's a heaven or not, if there's a heaven, it's gonna be a vastly different thing from this world, from this life. And if there isn't, well, then that's it, right? So we should pursue what we have now. And I know that art, it's one reason I love to read. Dude, every time I read a book and there's dialogue in it, unless there's an absurd amount of characters, I'm reading it out loud like a weirdo. But I love storytelling. But I'm also not a creative. Like I don't I can't make a world. I can't make a story. But a story that already exists that could be a tool to further a dream, like that's, you know, being picked for somebody's, you know, dream, like this is their project, this is their baby, their art, and they're like, hey, I want you to do this for me to make this come true. Like that's enough. So anyway, point being, goal for this year, just be in some student films or something and just be out there and actually making stuff. Because I think I'm not like a super egotistical guy typically. Um, everybody has an ego, um, but I typically put myself down the lowest. But I think I have potential and I think I have skill to become something great. But it's not even about greatness or about like being the center of the attention. I want to be things. I want to be other people and just immerse myself in that. Anyway, so that's the non-related book goal, and I've taken up far too much of your time. So to tag others, I mean, um, some ordinary gamers. Every time I do this, um, some okie dude. I can't. Britain. Some Ordinary Gamers is a old channel I used to watch, and I just have an old man hiccup because I'm getting old. Yeah, okay? I'm getting onset dementia early. But Britain knows who he is. I'll tag him in there. I'm dumb. Go ahead and laugh. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, yes, Britain. Some people who else might actually do it. Um, Jay from what's the channel name? I'll tag it, but my friend Jay. Um, I'm gonna leave it at those two. I'm gonna leave it at those two. There's only two who might actually do it, and I don't want to be annoying, so I'll leave it at those two. And thank you, Dustin, for the tag. Sorry for taking up so much of your guys' time. I need to learn to shut up. Anyway, love you all, appreciate you all, and till next time. Bye bye.